We're back on Air America Radio, Black Politics with Chris Owens. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. We are talking with former Congressman Major R. Owens, who retired in 2006, and we're going to talk about education, the greatest challenge in a civilized society. I've heard you say that, Dad. So what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? And you helped to pass No Child Left Behind. What are your thoughts about that now?
My vote for No Child Left Behind was one of those team player actions that I greatly regret.
Really?
I was very reluctant to vote for No Child Left Behind, and as a result of an appeal from my chairman, George Miller, who was very much involved in helping to write No Child Left Behind, I did go along with voting for it, but just as I suspected, the promise of adequate funding for that was immediately withdrawn by the Bush administration. In the first year, he cut out $26 billion that was expected to make No Child Left Behind work. You know, there were teachers' workshops and all kinds of various things that had to be financed. Otherwise, you were dumping a lot of new responsibilities on the teachers and the school systems without giving them adequate aid. And on the states,
yes.
You know, the whole concept that I pushed the whole time I was in Congress of opportunity to learn standards and opportunity to learn actions, how we must finance the opportunities to learn. Opportunity to learn mean, one, you got to give a kid an opportunity to learn by providing an adequate, well-trained teacher. You got to provide adequate facilities. They cannot be in physical facilities which are endanger their health and poor working conditions for teachers. Teachers will only transfer out as soon as they can to better places. You know, gyms and libraries and laboratories. You know, nobody wants to discuss that in Washington. In fact, we had the opportunity to learn standards were passed just before the Republicans took over the House in 1994. We did get it passed over a lot of objections, and
including the Clinton administration.
Not much cooperation from the Clinton administration. The Secretary of Education, Riley, was against it because the governors were against it. Opportunity to learn standards meant that the states, you could evaluate what are they doing to hold up their end of the bargain for the schools, instead of having the states test kids and test teachers and come down hard, politicians come down hard on the education community, the people, the administrators and the teachers and the students, without themselves being living up to their responsibilities for funding. So they fought it, and in one of those backroom deals that's never been thoroughly described, the Appropriations Committee took out a section of the education law illegally, and later on they ratified it and made it legal. But the opportunity to learn standards and the whole thrust is still necessary. Education will go nowhere unless you face the basics. There are a lot of esoteric and experiments of various kinds that we can promote and may improve education in various ways. But first, we are not getting enough money to hire qualified teachers who will stay in the classroom. We're not getting enough money to have buildings which are sufficient, et cetera, et cetera. The money went to Iraq, you know, and that's the first requirement. Plus, there's another thing that, in terms of minorities, certainly in terms of blacks, the Supreme Court ruling, the last ruling related to segregation versus integration, was in essence a ruling which says that segregation is all right. You know, in fact, they were saying to a group that was moving to try to promote integration that moves to promote integration are really segregation. You know,
right.
That argument. So now you have a situation where there'll be no relief in that direction. We have to make the schools in the poverty areas, in the inner cities, we have to make them first-class schools. That's the only way to do it. That means that in addition to everything else we do to improve education in America, and we must, education in general, our best students, our best schools are not performing on a world-class level. But in addition to that, we have to enhance the schools that are located in the poverty areas and give them additional funding to have additional smaller classes, additional computers, additional services that help families, like the employment. The first jobs available are to go to the parents of children in school and various other services, and on it goes. We got to do that. We are only 300 million people in this globe, and you know that 300 million Americans are very important, and our leadership in the world is very important, and we need all 300 million of those Americans to be in a position to be able to contribute something to our society. You know, the Chinese have 1.3 billion, and Indians, they don't know how many they have, 1.3, 1.4 billion. You know, we are not going to beat them at the numbers game. It's only the quality of education that's going to allow us to maintain leadership in the world, and we must maintain leadership, especially in the area of political freedom and liberty and freedom, and the kinds of things that our constitutional democracy has brought to the world. We cannot yield on that. We need everybody, and that means education has to, whatever it costs, we're going to have to go down and give the kind of education necessary to every man, woman, and child, every child that have an opportunity to develop fully.